right. We are back on Two Guys and a Goalie. Sorry for that disruption. I blame myself. But Tom Gazzola, Joaquin Gage with you. Two Guys and Goalie presented by GS Construction. All right, Gage, let's dive into it because people have been texting about this. The replacement or filler, whatever you want to call it, on the right side, on the back end, since losing Philip Broberg. Now the name that's buzzing is Tony DeAngelo. We talked about Tyson Barrie last week. People have been talking about Justin Schultz. Kevin Shattenkirk's names popped up. People glowing, evidently, about Ty Emerson and what he might be able to do. I think it was Bones saying, hey, I don't care for this Tony DeAngelo stuff. Bones says, zero interest in former puck-moving D-men in their waning years. The Oilers' room is tight enough to handle DeAngelo, and I think he'd be a 40 to 50-point guy without power play one time. What say you guys? I don't think so, but I'll throw it to you, Ganger.
31 games, 3 goals, 8 assists, 11 points last year with the Hurricanes. Going there was some hesitation, I think, but by all accounts was a good teammate, right? They had a very structured locker room. I think, anytime you have key leadership, Brent Burns, the younger Natchez, the Aho, like there's some established guys in there. You don't want to ruffle too many feathers, I think. Mm-hmm. Coming to Edmonton, it seems like a destination for players that might have had some off-ice issues. Right. And I don't know, Tommy. They've already like we had Evander Kane, by all accounts, has turned a page that sometimes maybe we're a little bit too quick to jump to, here the old Evander Kane's back. I think a lot of times he is just there's a lot more personality there, and he's just willing to show it, his displeasure at certain points. Hockey players are, we're all not nice people all the time. Mm-hmm. Corey Perry, he had the big press conference, didn't want to get into it all, apologized for what he did, and has obviously shown the organization that he's a key part of the Oilers dressing room, and to the point where they wanted him back again to take another run at this thing and think he's a big piece of the puzzle. So I think with a guy coming in, there's just a respect factor that you have for Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, Darnell Nurse. These that's their locker room, right? Zach Hyman. I don't think these guys would allow something so disruptive to come in, and hopefully, if they are going to pull the trigger on this, they do their due diligence, research it, make sure that this isn't going to disrupt things to the point where it affects things on the ice. They have to make the best decision possible. And the thing is, Tony DeAngelo is a pretty good hockey player. Like he's good.
His numbers back it up, sure.
And his, at 28, that's kind of that's when I feel somewhat like goaltenders that NHL defensemen really start to get into their own. Like he's in the prime of his career right now, I think, like physically being able to have that NHL experience. I'm a little bit hesitant to bring in another guy with a troubled past off the ice a little bit and ruffling feathers of his teammates. But I do think the Oilers dressing room's strong enough and resilient enough to not only embrace guys, but to bring them along for the ride.
It's interesting because he's played for 4 franchises since 26-17, 2 stints with the Hurricanes. Obviously, he's had 2 50-point seasons, 22-23 with Philly. He had a 42-point season. Last year, 11 points in 31 games. I don't know, like from an outsider's perspective, hearing about his situation, he got into that dust-up with, I think it was Shesterkin when he was with the Rangers. I don't know, like Gager, you bring in so many of these guys, and listen, I trust that the Oilers locker room is strong enough to handle, but like how many times are we talking about potential players coming in, and then a bunch of them do come in, we're like, oh, that guy's a strong personality. I don't know. He kind of, goes at his own pace, does things his own way, and eventually you get so many guys pulling in their own direction that you lose your path. So I don't know. I think that there's better options out there, but
yeah, I agree with you, Tommy. Like it's almost you can only fill your cup up so much with that kind of stuff, right? And why take the chance? That's another thing. You know, they've. I mean, you can look to even the Stan Bowman hiring was controversial, right? Like it's. I think that's enough. Let's get a guy that look for one of those kids. If someone's coming into the room, I'd rather it. That's why I said on the morning show, I thought that Tyson Barrie kind of makes sense.
Yeah,
because not only is I think he's serviceable, but the camaraderie that he has built with this team over his time when he did play for Edmonton.
Yeah.
It's a plug and play kind of on the ice and off the ice there. You don't have to worry about anything else with Tyson Barrie. There's a lot of the core guys that will be happy that he's back in that locker room, I think, rather than trying to have a conversation with a guy going, okay, here's the program, we want you to be part of it, but we also, we need you to stay away from the no extracurriculars.
Right.
It's just a draining conversation.
This text coming in says bringing in D'Angelo would be sneaky, smart PR move. Redirect the negative attention from Bowman to D'Angelo. I think the Bowman stuff has subsided to a certain degree. I think people had their say, vented their frustration, rightly so, understandably. I question the necessity of bringing in Stan Bowman. I stand by that. Now, don't get me wrong. He's been here for a little while now, and he gets to go to work and roll up his sleeves and work in tandem with Jeff Jackson. Gage, I find it silly when I hear people say, oh, Stan Bowman now has to have a conversation with Leon Draisaitl. I will reiterate it. Stan Bowman and Jeff Jackson are working as a tandem. That is pretty clear, and so it's them handling negotiations. It's them handling how to go about rounding out the defense. They were leading the charge and trying to decide what to do with the offer sheets to Holloway and Broberg, and then obviously they lean on the rest of the hockey ops department, but it's those two working as a duo attacking this stuff, and Bowman gets to be the front-facing guy as the GM, but I don't know about the PR side.
Yeah, no, I you were away molding the next generation of great hockey players last week. I didn't have a chance to talk to you about the offer sheets and things. I mean, just talking about Stan Bowman now, like this is his first big decision was to move on from these two players.
Yep.
What did you think of the whole move and deciding that we're gonna let these guys go and look elsewhere?
I mean, Gager, by all accounts, hockey ops had to figure out the best plan of attack. They know that they got forced into a jam by the Blues. Good on the Blues for doing that. I don't believe Doug Armstrong for a second that it wasn't motivated by his relationship with with Kenny Holland. I think it was, and I said this on the Hangout, and I'll reiterate it. I think it was a calculated risk taken by the Holloway camp. I think they made a mistake, and I think that they recognized that. But they got the money, they got the payday. That's good. And then Broberg seemed to be unhappy and got what he wanted and was rewarded for it. At the end of the day, how much it impacts this team and this roster this year, I think is less so than 2 years from now, 3 years from now, when those guys would take on more prominent roles. But I think, when you look at the priorities of this team, I don't think you could put Philip Broberg and Dylan Holloway ahead of Leon Draisaitl, Evan Bouchard, and Connor McDavid. I think that's what it came down to.
No, not at all. It was just the how they had progressed at playoff time.
Right.
Both guys came back and really, really that looked like regular NHLers and found their place within the team. That was probably what was most impressive to me. That they seamlessly fit right in and contributed.
Right.
Were part of some crucial wins throughout the playoffs. So, just another chance for other players to come into camp. And I mean, now when you look at it, the forward group, there are some spots open. There's a spot open there, and on D, there's a chance for someone to reach out and grab the brass ring and take hold of it. So I like that. I like that just a little bit of competition in training camp.
And, I guess another thing, because we get lost in all the names and everything, and rightly so. But now to Gager, if I said this to you, I want to hear what you think. The focus goes and the importance of development is going to be heightened. And this would have happened, I think, with Holloway and Broberg still in tow. But you're in a time now where you're clearly in the window to win, and you want to maximize Draisaitl, McDavid, and on all of that. But this is where your development program and your scouting has to really kick it into overdrive and make up for any blemishes from the past. And listen, they've got new people in there. Rick Precy's taken over from Tyler Wright. But this is where that element of the organization is going to have to work extra hard, put in the overtime to make sure that they can sustain this championship window. And I think that's kind of fallen by the wayside because we talk about the who's here now, who's going to be contributing to a Stanley Cup run. But I think if you want to prolong it, this is where your development team and your drafting and your pro scouts are going to have to earn their keep, right?
Oh, most definitely. Also, not only, and adding on to that, Tommy, is I liked last year hearing Ken Holland, or how he spoke of cultivating the Ekholm deal, right? And how it was to the beginning of the year that began his conversations with David Poole at the time, right? So, and this was something that was, what do you think? And it was well, we want to see about playoffs. If we're in the playoffs, of course we want to keep them and just get those conversations going. So, I'm assuming that the Oilers have a short list of what they think they need to shore up their lineup right now, and probably a lengthy list of players that could fit that role. And those types of conversations have to start yesterday, I think, at this point. So when the Oilers do get closer to trade deadline time, and look, at the beginning of last year, if you were to tell me they could get a third rounder for Holloway, I'd be a little bit hesitant. But if you were to say you could get a second for Broberg, I would have entertained that just by his body of work and how essentially how preseason went for him last year. It was a train wreck. So they can use these assets as well. So it's and I think you have to kind of look at that when you're kind of entertaining it'll have to be a regular, solid NHL contributor I'm probably looking more towards the defensive side. Fingers crossed for Oilers fans that everyone stays healthy up to that point and you're not looking to really replace anything else. But yeah, I'm sure there's stuff in the works that we don't even know about. I mean, you've alluded to it lots as this new executive staff of the Edmonton Oilers. They got the vault. There's no even if you're feeding them peach schnapps, they're not letting loose any secrets.
That's kind of been the mandate from Jeff Jackson, and to his credit, he's done a good job of plugging up leaks. You get some tidbits here and there, and you got to kind of piece it together. So we'll see, but it makes us work harder, keeps everybody guessing, and it's interesting. nonetheless, and we always know that people are hungry for Oilers news and rumors and stuff like that. And so makes it fun. But okay, let's get to some comments, and then we do need to get to Hire It or Fire It, presented by GS Construction, of course. Two Guys and a Goalie, brought to you by GS Construction, proud partners of this fine program. Tom Gazzola, Joaquin Gage with you. Text us 780-218-9999. Get in to the nasty chat. We apologize for the little disruption there earlier. It is, I'll remind everyone, because Gordfather was getting annoyed by it. We put in a new board. We're working out the kinks, and this is the last week before we go full bore next week with all our new programming. So we apologize and appreciate your patience. Okay, a couple comments, and then we'll get to Hire It or Fire It. Northside Sandwich saying no reason for Tony DeAngelo. Penner's Pancake says, what is it with the Fabro speculation? I can't see Nashville letting him go. Brett B says, I want to say Fabro was scratched at points last year. Dex says, DeAngelo would be a huge pickup. Play him with Nurse, forcing Nurse to get into the game more often. He'd cause chaos every game. It's exactly what the Oilers need. Gager, any thoughts to some of those comments really quickly?
Yeah, I think it sounds like Oilers fans are a little bit tired of the reclamation projects that come in. They want to be, I'm not saying Ekholm, but someone that's just going to come in and everyone's happy about, right? That's what they want. It's
very hard to get.
It's very difficult to get. Mm-hmm. It's either one of the, very rarely does something like that happen where it just works out perfectly. And, but no, that's, I understand it. And I think it would be okay. But again, I'm saying, why take the chance? Yeah.
No, that's fair. All right. I think I want to get to one more text, and then I'll just kind of mention what I know. Any truth to this Fabro rumor? We kind of hit on that. All I can say to these names being thrown out there, one thing I do know is that from Tyson Barrie's side, there would be interest on them rejoining the Oilers, and Barrie and rejoining the Oilers. And then the other thing, too, from an Oilers standpoint, I do know that his name has come up in conversations within the hockey ops department. So that I can tell you I know about. The other thing I've been told is with all these names being bounced around and, speculated about, I've also been told that the Oilers are exploring all options. That's what I've been told. That's what I know. We'll see where it goes and what it leads to. All right. Let's get to... Oh, there's one more text that I want to get to. It's from Brett B, and I want to throw it at you as well, Joaquin. Brett B says, any worry with Saravalli said on Draisaitl negotiations being farther apart than he thought? Seems to be lots of contradictory reports out there, so don't know who to believe. Joaquin, what would you say if you're hearing Frank saying maybe they're further apart than we thought initially?
Probably, it's always hard to know these things, or speculate. Leon mentioned it. He said the Oilers are the only teams I can negotiate with, and why wouldn't he take his time? I mean, this is a huge moment. Cass talked about this a few two guys ago. Just when you're thinking of the stratosphere of salaries that Leon Draisaitl is going to command, this is legacy type of money we're talking about. This is grandchildren that are going to be able to basically do whatever they want in this case, and the estate planning of what Leon wants to do.
Essentially,
this is what it is. I mean, it's a lot of money. So I think that's what is probably Leon's got to start thinking about this, and very difficult for anyone anyone in their 20s to start thinking about legacy and estate and all those things, but he's probably got some pretty good people working with him, and they're having these types of conversations that open his eyes to things. Regardless of what happens, I can't see the Edmonton Oilers packaging up Leon Draisaitl for someone at the trade deadline because they feel that they can't sign him for the following year. I think that you just can't do that. You take a run at this thing. They're a playoff team. We've seen the Herculean efforts that Leon Draisaitl can do in the playoffs. Like, he becomes, with a team with Connor McDavid on it, Leon Draisaitl is still capable of being the best player on the team on certain nights. You roll the dice and you take it, and maybe you have to take it into July 1st and see what it is. Hopefully that the Oilers can, as an organization, can get it done, and maybe that makes the decision to stay a little bit easier for him. But if not, and he needs to look at it. Maybe I have a better chance elsewhere. Who knows? Like, we all think, why would you leave? We're playing beside your buddy here. Mm-hmm. It'd be great to get behind the scenes and see Connor and Leon talk about this just amongst themselves,
right?
Like, what? Because you're gonna get the stock answer for them. I would love to know what they think. Personal experience. It was Doug Waite was the big dog my last year here, and he when he left, he signed in St. Louis. He phoned every guy that he played with that year, and I remember because I was walking down White Ave, and he called me. And said, "Hey, it was a pleasure playing with you. I've moved on." But he had that type of relationship with his team. Mm-hmm. Doug Waite loved the city, like one of his favorite places to play. But who knows, man? It's but I'm probably 60-40 that he stays, Tommy. I think there's the allure of maybe somewhere else might appeal to him. He's not North American. He's German. Maybe he wants to try a different market. I wouldn't fault him for not looking into these. But you definitely have to explore all options.
Well said. I love the Dougie Waite reference. If you'll recall, he got traded summer of 2001 to the Blues, signed a huge ticket with them right after the trade. Edmonton got Jochen Hecht, Marty Riesener, and I think like a first rounder or someone else.
Yeah.
That came in on that deal. And Doug Waite, great guy, like you said, Gager, and then he's in the Oilers Hall of Fame for a reason. So I think Leon Draisaitl stays. That's my personal opinion. I feel like having everyone guessing is probably a good thing. Probably humors Leon a little bit because he's a smart guy. He knows what's going on. I'm sure he's being updated on the hot talk around town in the league about him. You're right, the legacy thing, and this is probably the biggest contract of his life coming up here. Varying reports. I don't know what to believe right now. I don't put a lot of stock into anything right now. It's just, hot talk in the summer. Again, the last I was told is that between the team and him, and this goes back a couple weeks, was if this deal between the Oilers and Draisaitl gets done, there's already a general understanding of what it'll look like. A decision has to be made whether or not it's 5 years or 8 years. They've gone back and forth, and I think with all the tidbits that we get and the speculation tells us that these negotiations can change day to day, right? And so like what we hear a week ago, completely different because a thought process changes or the team looks at things differently and they propose something new. So fluctuating, I don't know. But instinctually, I think he stays ultimately. So we'll see what happens. The vault will be open for him. The opportunity to continue on as an Oiler will be there, presented, unless he really thinks he's better off elsewhere. But I think his best chance to win is here. I think he probably wants to. And I think that's what ultimately happens. But let us speculate. I Gager, people were asking me that were much more intelligent than I am, and people that have been around this team and played in the NHL for a long time and are just very notable, asking me what I think, and I'm like, I know less than you. I can't believe you're asking me. So if you've got people like that who are Hall of Famers asking someone like me who's just a schmuck in Edmonton, I think that kind of gives you a taste of where it's at, and Draisaitl and the Oilers have everybody guessing. That's how I would sum it up.
This is the greatest German hockey player ever to play hockey, right? So, who knows, man? Who knows? Like, I don't know. I just 8 years. I think if he does sign it, I think it's long term. I don't think he'll sign the 5. I think he'll just sign a monster 8-year deal, and
maybe he does,
and maybe squeak another year out. And even if he doesn't, pull the Yager at that point, go back home, buy the Cologne hire, and play a player coach. I don't know what he would do, but just probably wouldn't play back home. But he's in the driver's seat. He can do what he wants.
Yeah.
I fully expect him to have a monster year again this year, and hopefully he can cap it off with what they came so close to doing.
Yes,
this past season.
All right, that leads us into Hire It or Fire It, presented by GS Construction, who is now hiring. Become a part of their great team today by visiting gsconstruction.ca or their page on indeed.ca. For the past 50 years, the foundation of GS Construction has been built on efficiency, quality, and safety. Take your career to the next level. Join the team at GS Construction. All right, Gager, hire it or fire it. Let's start with this one, because there was a report on tsn.ca, came from Travis Yost, talking about the upcoming collective bargaining agreement, which I feel like we just went through all this crap not long ago. But at the end of the 25-26 season, the CBA is expiring. Put on your time-traveling device. Look into your crystal ball. Are we talking about more labor strife in the NHL after 25-26? Hire it or fire it, Gager?
Oh, gosh, Tommy, that's a good question. I haven't looked enough. I'm gonna fire it.
Thank you.
I don't want to see it. I think what the PA has been able to do, like we did have no one expected COVID to happen, right? Yeah. Obviously, the players want to get back to the point where they were prior to COVID. But if you look at the minimum salaries in the NHL, what's the minimum? $775, I believe, is the minimum. That's what the collective bargaining isn't about the stars, right? It's about the middle of the pack guys and bringing up that low end salary because not all players have 10-year careers, right? I think the average is just under 2, or I have to look.
NFL, again. I think, or football is like 2, and then I think last time I heard the average in hockey was like 4. Somewhere around there,
okay, so it's a little bit longer, right. But the salaries are a lot lower, right?
Yeah.
But then this is why people were, those guys signed the deals and left, and they're just about the money. But let's just look back to Kyler Yamamoto. This guy signed a pretty good deal for a couple years, a few $1 million, and now he's outside looking in, trying to find a job.
Yeah.
Not that type of money is anything to shake a stick at. Like that's life-changing money. You should be set for the rest of your life with those types of deals. But sometimes you have to look at it that way. Maybe I'm an injury away from I play a speed game. I injure my knee and I'm not as effective. Sometimes you have to strike while the iron's hot. Not every player is Leon Draisaitl or Connor McDavid.
Yeah, I'm going to fire it as well. I mean, in Yost's report, he talked about some of the slowdown in growth in the National Hockey League compared to other major sports leagues, and that's totally understandable, but they just enjoyed their best financial season the NHL did ever. And now you solve the Arizona Coyotes problem. You've got a good owner, it seems like, in Ryan Smith with the Utah Hockey Club. You're going to have a building that seats more than 4,500 people. So I'm going to fire it. I think they don't want to disrupt some pretty good momentum. There's a huge broadcast deal that's going to be have to be negotiated. Obviously, the Canadian one's coming to a close soon, and we'll see if a streaming service comes on board. The NFL seems to be pacing the way for the other leagues, so I'll fire it. You can't have labor strife again. It happens too much in the National Hockey League, and I think it's pretty clear, too, that the NHL cannot keep pace with the NBA, MLB, and certainly not the National Football League. All right, hire it or fire it. Sam Gagner plays in the National Hockey League this upcoming season. He's 35 years old, Gager, and according to Jim Matheson, Matty talking to Gagner says that he has multiple PTO offers in hand as he decides what's next for himself. What do you think? Hire it or fire it? Gagner plays in the NHL next year.
Oof. I hate to say it, but I'm going to fire it. I think that's it for Sam. Great career. Looks like his next step is just moving from a locker stall to a front office somewhere in some capacity.
I like Sam Gagner and respect him a tremendous amount. So due to this, I will hire it. He finds a way to get those offers and works his bag off to make it so that he does play games. I didn't think he would play that many games in the NHL this year. Completely wrong. Happily so. I'll hire it. But part of me says fire it because, like you said, Gager may be ready for the trade. Locker stall for office. Good point. What say you? 780-218-9999 or via the nasty chat. Brett B says Sammy G hopefully has a hockey ops role in Edmonton waiting for him. I do know that he was offered one by the Oilers a few years ago, and he said, I'm not ready to hang him up just yet. All right. The other thing, too, we were talking about this, and it popped up a little bit, is like new designs when it comes to center ice logos. This is an aesthetic thing in the National Hockey League where they're kind of like zooming in on logos and filling up the entire center ice circle. Hire it or fire it. The ice in the National Hockey League, across the league, in every arena, is too busy with advertisements and logos and whatnot. What say you?
I'm gonna fire it. Half the stuff you see is superimposed anyway. It's not even really there. I mean, look, I played in Europe, and you could barely see the white with the amount of stuff that was all over the ice. I don't think they've even scratched the surface of what they could do. I know people, it's very polarizing, even to the point with advertisement on jerseys. I know they just started doing kind of helmets, but I think there's some creative ways to add dollars through sponsorship deals, through teams, through ice, the way it's done. I have no trouble. Some people hate the boards changing. I don't mind it.
I like it.
I think it's kind of neat to go from thing to thing to thing. Like before long, there'll probably be an EST logo on some boards at some point. And ours shine, probably your face, Tommy.
Oh, we don't need to see that.
Flashing through the boards as people fire pucks at it. That'll be good.
I'll hire it that the ice is too busy. They put the logos in the corners. You're right. There is the superimposed stuff from the broadcast. You look at the ice now compared to even 10 years ago, and it is super, super busy. So it's looking like 80s and 90s AHL. Go ahead.
I will say one thing, though. The one thing I miss is this is just like from being a little kid watching Hockey Night in Canada and watching old Edmonton Oilers game. I wish they would bring back the season's greetings below the
Nice.
below the blue lines.
Nice touch.
That was I think only Edmonton did that, and it was just being a kid, loving hockey, loving Christmas too. You get that nostalgia thing of, oh, it's Christmas time, hockey time, and I wish they would do it, even if it was just superimposed. I would love to see the season's greetings again at Oilers games come Christmas time. So,
hey, you know where you could do that? The technology's there, like you alluded to. You could do it on the broadcast. It doesn't have to be in arena, but you can superimpose it in that old cursive on the ice. You do like an 80s night or a 90s night or something like that. All the graphics that way. Some teams have done stuff like that. So it is possible, and it was a neat little part of the NHL back in the day. Kind of the buildings had more ability to be flexible and creative with their ice and their boards, and it's kind of been standardized by the NHL a little bit. So that would be neat to see, but nice touch, Gager. Indeed. Hey, we're out of time. That was a lot of fun.
Wow.
You and me. Look at us.
Look at us.
Look at us. Great stuff as always, pal. Always a pleasure to work with you, and we are one day closer to EST Afternoons debuting right here on Edmonton Sports Talk, 1 to 3 with Hernan Salas and Joaquin Gage, and that will be followed by the Reed Wilkins Show with Jay Milne. The countdown's on as we wind down the summer here at EST and get ready for year number 2. Huge thank you to GS Construction, presenting sponsor of Two Guys and a Goalie, as well as Popeye's Louisiana Kitchen and Coolbet. A huge thank you to everybody who tuned in, whether you watched or listened. We appreciate you. That does it for another great day here at EST. For Zach to come and Joaquin Gage, I'm Tom Gazzola saying see ya tomorrow. Ciao for now.